Number 10. Bruce Banner, Earth 12,091. Now, not a whole lot is known about this alternate universe, but they do have a pretty crazy looking Hulk nonetheless. In this reality, Bruce Banner was mutated into the Hulk by undergoing some gamma radiation experimentation, so pretty standard so far, but his appearance is vastly different than the Hulk that we're familiar with. This Hulk is like an electric green color and is a bit more risque because he doesn't wear any clothes, which is okay I guess because he's got kind of, Ken doll in it if you know what I mean. Not to mention that he has 4 absolutely massive arms, effectively making him twice as strong as any other Hulk. After this transformation, he gained the reputation for destroying spaceships, and any attempts to stop him by Thunderbolt Ross were always thwarted. He attacked the hideout of Barracuda when the Punisher tried to gain information about the 6-fingered hand, and he killed a decent amount of the mercenaries hired to kill the Punisher, but was enraged by the leader's sonic device. The Punisher managed to escape before the Hulk could kill him, which you can assume he could have done very easily. Check out this monstrous Hulk for yourself in his first appearance in 2012 Space Punisher number 2. Number 9. Skulk. Hailing from Earth 9602, the Amalgam Universe, Bruce Banner was a scientist experimenting with radiation, and one day an experiment he was working on went horribly wrong and fused him with the elemental entity known as Solomon Grundy, and he became known as the Skulk. With the powers of the Hulk and Solomon Grundy combined, you can probably figure out for yourself why this would be pretty scary. After a confrontation with Dr. Strange Fate showed Skulk that he could keep the Skulk in his human form with the use of magic. The Skulk agreed to work as an agent for Dr. Strange Fate in return for Strange Fate keeping Skulk in the form of Bruce Banner for most of the time. This version of the Hulk is actually a rather gentle soul because upon finding access, Bruce actually tried to have a conversation with him rather than immediately jumping into battle because he thought that Access seemed like a really lost and lonely child in the world. This didn't last for long though because it did get to the point where he transformed into the Skulk and attacked him with just plain old brute force. Skip ahead a little bit to a mysterious villain attacking the Amalgam Earth city by city, and Lobo the Duck awoke in the ruins of Manhattan and found himself as the last remaining survivor among the heroes. Now the Skulk's body was never actually found among the other heroes, but it can be assumed that he is no longer living. Check out this character for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 1996's Doctor Strange Fate number 1. Number 8. The Incredible Thing. In an alternate reality, Earth 295 to be exact, Bruce Banner never actually became the Hulk and mutants rule the world. In an effort to combat them, Bruce, under the order of Thaddeus Ross, is tasked with creating an army of super soldiers. However, all of his efforts fail. Banner moves to Europe not too long after and becomes a member of the Human High Council, the ruling body of the surviving human population. Oddly enough, Banner longs to become a mutant in order to escape being a second-class citizen, and caving into the moral low ground, Banner sold himself to one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse in order to experiment on mutants and eventually himself. The result of the experiment was The Thing, a gray Hulk variant that Banner could revert between at will. Ben Grimm and Sue Storm were the first to encounter the Thing, and Sue shot him in the side of the head. The Thing fled and turned back into Banner, but neither Sue nor Ben connected the two events together. Fast forward a little bit to when Bruce, alongside Tony Stark, is escaping the Earth's orbit, and we see humanity under fire from a bunch of missiles. They were able to destroy all except for one, an adamantium bomb that Bruce had invented himself. So, as the Thing, he jumped out of the spacecraft and diverted the bomb so that no one would have to die from it. Forcibly reverting back to his human form, he fell down to Earth and was captured by Apocalypse. After an unidentified period of time, he revolts against the Alphas and Apocalypse, but sadly this ended in his death. Check out this Bruce Banner for yourself in 1995's X-Universe number 1. Number 7. Infernal Hulk. Are you familiar with Earth 11,638? It is an alternate universe that is seemingly a utopia because Spider-Man's loved ones are still alive, and Bruce Banner finally separated from the Hulk, and Wade Wilson never had to become Deadpool. However, he did end up becoming the villain Deathmask, but we'll just sort of, gloss over that one. After Bruce Banner became Dr. Banner, the Sorcerer Supreme of this universe, he separated himself from the Hulk and banished him to Hell, where he became the Infernal Hulk. When the Bruce Banner of Earth 616 traveled to this universe with Spider-Man and Deadpool, the Infernal Hulk was able to get free from Hell by trading places with the Hulk persona of Earth 616's Banner. He immediately went after Bruce, who was saved by Spider-Man and Deadpool. Together with his counterpart, Spider-Man and Deadpool, the Sorcerer Supreme Banner came up with a plan to defeat the Infernal Hulk once and for all by reversing the banishing spell and then snapping Bruce's neck before the Infernal Hulk could take control of his body. Check out this devilish Hulk for yourself in their first appearance in 2011's Deadpool Annual number 1. Number 6. John Eisenhart. On Earth 928, the alternate Earth that is set in 2099, and it is a vastly different world than we are familiar with because the Age of the Heroes has ended and much of the world is run by violent and evil companies. Head over to Los Angeles and we meet John Eisenhart, the Hulk of 2099. John gained his Hulk-like abilities from the Knights of Banner, a cult that worshipped the original Hulk, who wanted nothing more than to create a new Hulk. Their Gamma gun accidentally fired and hit John, and he was transformed into a 12-foot tall Gamma beast with razor-sharp claws and fangs, a long tongue, and massive muscles. Hulk 2099 dedicated himself to defending the people from monsters like Draco and became a leader in a rebellion against them. After President Victor Von Doom's takeover of America, John stole a Gamma device from one of Doom's henchmen in order to keep it from Doom himself. Now, this device was similar to the one that granted John the ability to transform into his Hulk-like form in the first place. Draco threatened John with a massive bomb placed directly on the city's fault line if he didn't turn the Gamma device over to him. In the ensuing battle, the bomb detonated and triggered a massive earthquake, and the earthquake set off the Gamma device that resulted in a massive explosion laying waste to the city. John emerged from the rubble, mutated even more so by the radiation emitted from the device. His mutation eventually did stabilize, and he returned to his original form just prior to S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arriving in the region. While battling them, John seemed to perish, and well, that's the last that we've seen of him. Give his story a read for yourself in 1993's 2099 Unlimited number 1. Number 5. Bruce Banner, Earth 9591. In the Marvel Universe, scientific accidents tend to lead to fabulous powers. However, in the real world, a scientific accident typically leads to serious injury or even death. After all, if a regular person were caught in the explosion of a gamma bomb, they definitely wouldn't gain green skin and super strength. Odds are they would just get probably really sick and die. With that in mind, let's meet Bruce Banner from the miniseries Ruins. Written by Warren Ellis, Ruins is a dystopian twist on the Marvel Universe, where everything that can and does go wrong goes wrong. In this twist on the classic origin story, Rick Jones is a morphine addict that wandered into the testing site of a gamma bomb. The heroic Bruce Banner rushes to save him and is caught in the blast of the bomb, but instead of becoming the Jade Giant, Bruce Banner is consumed with a mess of green tumors which tear Banner apart from the inside out. Much like the Peter Parker of this universe, Banner is currently believed to be held captive by the CIA for research purposes. Give the storyline a read for yourself in 1995's Ruins number 1. It answers a lot of questions that I personally didn't know I wanted the answers to. Number 4. Hulk Earth 2081. After a war which ended in a violent nuclear holocaust that wiped out all life on Earth, wanting to get away from the few remaining survivors would return to the Gamma Cave in New Mexico, where he'd seal himself off with a boulder. Many years later, Bruce would free himself from his imprisonment by a recorder, who was sent to record the demise of humanity at the request of a number of races. Though Bruce at first assumed they wanted to learn from humanity's mistakes, the recorder then informed him that they just wanted to make sure that they were all actually dead. Though Bruce at first refused to believe that everyone was dead, asking if it was some kind of joke, he soon came to accept it. He would then ask the recorder if he was going to kill him as well to, be sure. And the recorder then asked Bruce if he wanted to die, to which Bruce then responded, no, why would I want that? Bruce spent the next several years wandering across the ruins of the old cities trying to remember what he could of the old world. Later, Bruce suffered a painful heart attack, and how much his punishment resembles that of Prometheus, the last Titan, condemned to stay forever alive even while animals devoured him. As he died, the Hulk's persona arose in his mind. Banner would plead with the Hulk, begging him to simply let go of his conflicts, claiming that they were going to a paradise where all their dead friends were, where they could be happy. Hulk threw away his suggestion thinking it was a trick, and because in his eyes, friends had always betrayed him. With Banner completely gone, the Hulk was left completely alone in an empty world. Check out this one-shot storyline in 2002's Incredible Hulk, The End. Number 3. Zombie Hulk. That's right, it's Jack talking about the zombieverse once again, my big favorite. In the world of Marvel Zombies, the Hulk is the hungriest one there is. After an unnamed hero driven by the hunger crashes on Earth and infects the Avengers with a zombie virus, the world spirals into a zombie apocalypse. Once valiant heroes resort to stomach-churning acts to fulfill their craving for human flesh, and the world becomes a battle for the strongest for scarce resources. A roaming band of zombies composed of, or I guess decomposed since they're zombies, of former heroes such as Spider-Man and Wolverine, kill and eat their way across the planet with a zombified Hulk serving as the Twisted Team's muscle. The group eventually crossed paths with the Silver Surfer, who was subsequently brutally killed by the Hulk and eaten by the group, imbuing the zombies with the cosmic power, allowing the former heroes to take to the stars to eat their way across the galaxy. 40 years later, Hulk returns to the Earth to find a colony of human survivors in New York, known as New Wakanda. After Giant Man declared a plan to create a breeding program to have food for eternity, Spider-Man and Luke Cage rebelled and fought Tony and the others. A force field was activated, protecting Black Panther's stronghold and the survivors, but sealed Gladiator and an unconscious Bruce Banner inside and cut Luke Cage in half. Hulk eventually escapes, and after eating Reynolds, Hulk transformed back into Bruce and voluntarily was eaten by the zombies so that he could cause no more damage to anyone. You all already know that this is one of my favorite universes, so check out Zombie Hulk for yourself, starting with his first appearance in Marvel Zombies Dead Days number 1. Number 2. Maestro. While the Hulk has traditionally served as a tragic anti-hero, the supervillain known as the Maestro serves as a reminder that the Hulk is really only one bad day away from becoming the most dangerous foe mankind has ever encountered. This alternate future version of the Hulk hails from a Earth ravaged by nuclear war. Driven mad by the death of his friends and from continued exposure to radiation, the Hulk christens himself the Maestro and appoints himself the ruler of this war-torn dystopia. Retaining the intelligence of Bruce Banner, but with the enhanced strength brought on from the radiation, the Maestro rules unopposed, splitting his time between torturing those who have crossed him and admiring his trophy room filled with the weapons and costumes of his fallen comrades. When the modern day Hulk is sent forward in time, he ends up clashing with his future self, eventually triumphing over the cocky Maestro. While the Maestro hails from a possible future, the Hulk lives in constant fear that one bad move could put him on the path to becoming this tyrannical ruler. Fast forward through some pretty cool events that you should definitely read for yourself, and we see the Maestro go up against Logan, who unsheathed his claws and just decapitates him. Give the story a read for yourself, starting with 2017's Old Man Logan, Volume 2, number 25. And number 1, Pappy Banner. This version makes me so uncomfortable, it's not even funny. So similar to his 616 counterpart, Bruce Banner of Earth 21,923 began as a hero, or as much of a hero that the Hulk can be. No one really knows how or why or when, but Bruce Banner had a very drastic shift in personality and became a villain, many believing it to be probably because of the prolonged exposure to radiation. When the villains took over in this alternate world, Banner joined in on the hero slaughter, eliminating Thor and so many others. Banner later took over a large portion of California and Nevada as his own and named it Hulkland. He also made the decision to mate with his first cousin She-Hulk and sired a group of inbred Hulks called the Hulk Gang. Through intimidation alone, they forced people living there to pay rent or face having their property taken and even death. One of the people that was extorted was Logan, who had become a pacifist at the time. Then one day, the Hulk Gang killed Logan's family, causing him to abandon his pacifist beliefs. And in anger, Logan killed almost the entire Hulk Gang and its leader, Pappy Banner. Understand why this Hulk makes me so uncomfortable? If you feel like you've got it in you, check out Pappy Banner for yourself in this first appearance in 2015's Old Man Logan, number 4. Number 10, Captain Last. You'll learn pretty early on in this list today that the Captain America legacy isn't always carried on by the most deserving. Sometimes it's taken up by a terrible warlord, and that is exactly what happened in this case. On Earth 13,153, humanity makes its last stand in the only place strong enough to survive, Brooklyn. The former Spider-Man Miles Morales leads the last of civilization into the future against the evil that is still very prevalent in the world. Captain Last is the leader of the One America Army, a group of militant scrappers based in the tri-state area following the Earth's decimation by the germs. Basing himself off of Captain America, Last also gains his powers from a super soldier serum, though it's not really explained when or how, and he wears a costume that resembles Cap's signature look, shield and all. Last and his army attacked a caravan carrying supplies from Jersey City to Brooklyn, but were defeated by Spider-Man and his allies. Somehow they were able to find a way to merge Captain Last with a germ, allowing them to break through Brooklyn's defenses and evade the city. Captain Last sought out and battled Spider-Man, but Miles used his powers of bioelectricity to kill the Captain once and for all. Check out this monstrous Captain for yourself in his first and thankfully last appearance in 2020's Miles Morales: The End, number 1. Number 9, Captain Zealandia. A Captain America alternate hailing from Earth 616, Captain Zealandia is one of Arnim Zola's mutated clones of Captain America that was exposed to negatively charged gamma rays. Captain Zealandia possesses all the powers you associate with Captain America, such as superhuman strength, stamina, and agility, but they are all amped up a notch thanks to the gamma rays that they were exposed to. They also carry around a shield that resembles Captain America's, however it is a different color scheme, is made of an unknown material, and has sharpened edges that make it look kind of like a buzzsaw. This storyline takes place after Steve's return from Dimension 7, a world of mutates created by Zola where Steve had been trapped for 11 years. This storyline takes place after Steve's return from Dimension Z, a world of mutates created by Zola where Steve had been trapped for 11 years. Steve is awoken and tortured both mentally and physically by Captain Zealandia, so much so that Steve gets to a point where he's had enough and just impales Captain Zealandia with a shield. This didn't actually get rid of our Cap variant though, because he later resurfaces as the leader of the Unvengers, a team of mutated clones based on the Avengers including Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor. Check out this scary looking Cap clone for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2013's Captain America Volume 7, number 4. Number 8, Captain Mexica. From Earth 1519, a reality where the Aztecs had never been conquered, comes a Captain America variant that is pretty freaking scary looking. Not a whole lot is known about Captain Mexica's background, but it is assumed that it's similar to Earth 616's Captain America because they seemingly have the same powers and similar gear. At some point, Captain Mexica found their way to Earth 616 and they were immediately caught and put in stasis by the Alternate Reality Monitoring and Operational Response Agency, or ARMOR for short. After a zombie Morbius was found to be impersonating his mainstream counterpart, he began infecting ARMOR agents left and right, turning them all into zombies. In this process, Captain Mexico was freed from stasis, infected, and began feasting on ARMOR agents as an ever-hungry zombie. After having his fill, he attacked Machine Man, who cut him in half, seemingly killing him. However, it was not confirmed, since he's a zombie, and hasn't really made an appearance since. Give this zombie captain story a read for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 2009's Marvel Zombies 3, number 4. Number 7. Steven Rogers, Earth 70,105. In the 5-issue limited series Bullet Points, we are shown an alternate reality where Dr. Erskine is killed the day before implementing the Captain America program. Still very sick and with no other option, Steve volunteered himself for another top-secret government project known as Project Iron Man, and I think you know what that means. Steve's body is bonded to a giant suit of armor that resembles the Mark I Iron Man suit, and with this suit he is able to fight for America in World War II. Thanks to this new outer shell, he is able to simulate the powers and abilities that his 616 counterpart gained from the Super Soldier Serum. However, I feel this was a huge sacrifice because his skin was literally grafted to the suit. Years later, he was finally freed from the suit, but that did not last very long because he was forced back into it in order to fight Peter Parker, the Hulk of this universe. Bruce Banner is actually the Spider-Man in this universe. It's a really interesting and smart switch that the writers did, and I really liked it a lot. But anyways, sadly in this fight with Peter, Steve dies because of the sheer strength that the Hulk possesses. Highly recommend you give the storyline a read for yourself, starting with 2007's Bullet Points number 1. Number 6. Baron Blood. You're probably familiar with John Falsworth, the Baron Blood of Earth 616. The young adult who got turned into a vampire by Dracula himself and then had his body mutated and altered by German scientists? Good, I'm glad you know who he is because that is not at all who I'm going to be talking about. I am actually talking about Earth 8101's Baron Blood that hails from the Marvel Apes universe. Don't worry though, this Baron still possesses all of the powers and abilities of his 616 counterpart, and he is also said to be at the peak of gorilla physicality. Revealed to be the one who is responsible for the vampire invaders, he ambushed Captain America, took his form, froze him in an iceberg. Continuing to turn other inhabitants of this universe into zombies, he became the leader of the Ape Vengers, which, funnily enough, contained a lot of reformed supervillains. He secretly plotted to enter Earth 616 for further food, and to accomplish this, he killed his world's version of Mr. Fantastic to gain access to tech that would allow him to hop between worlds. During the final battle between the Ape Vengers and the Outcast, Baron Blood wounded Speedball, which forced Gibbon and Fiona to take Speedball with them to Earth 616. However, Baron Blood didn't end up making it too far because he was later killed by Ape X. Check out the Ape Vengers and the Marvel Apes universe for yourself by checking out 2008's Marvel Apes number 1. Number 5. US Agent. A huge shakeup for Cap came up in a bold 1987 storyline. When a government commission declared that Steve had to do their bidding to continue as Captain America, Steve was obviously resistant because, who says his ideals are necessarily going to line up with theirs? He decided to just quit the whole role altogether, and the commission turned to John Walker to become the new Cap. However, he was much more brutal and short-tempered than our lovable Steve Rogers. Thanks to his power broker enhancements, Walker possesses basically all the same abilities that Steve has, not to mention he is a military-trained fighter and also trained under the Taskmaster at one point to hone his gymnastic and acrobatic skills. A real breaking point for this character is when a group known as the Watchdogs took out his parents, causing Walker to experience extreme levels of grief and to go on a bloody rampage. These bad actions led him to being deemed unworthy of the Captain America name, and he soon after faked his own death and came back as the US Agent. As the US Agent, we have seen Walker as a member of the Dark Avengers, Omega Flight, Jury, and even the Watchdogs as an undercover agent. There is so much more when it comes to this character, so go check him out for yourself, starting with his first appearance as the Super Patriot in 1986's Captain America number 323, or just feel free to skip ahead to his time as the US Agent, starting with 1989's Captain America number 354. Number 4. Captain Hydra. You're probably thinking that I'm going to be talking about the time where it was revealed that Captain America was actually an agent for Hydra and the entire fandom just lost their mind when they saw the infamous Hail Hydra panel. Now, I thought it would be way too easy to include that dark version of Captain America and challenged myself to look for some other variants, but don't worry, if we do a part 2, I will definitely include him in that list. Enough with that tangent though, let's get back on track with Leopold Zola of Earth 85,826. Possessing the exact same powers and abilities of his 616 counterpart, aka Nomad, this version of Zola differs from him because he is a spoiled and arrogant brat who does literally whatever he wants. The Captain led Hydra's team of Avengers to capture Nomad and Captain America's daughter Ellie in order to end the remnants of the rebel movement which was resisting Hydra's rule in the domain of the Hydra Empire. He pulled no punches when doing this, killing anyone who got in his way, and even broke Nomad's spine during a one-on-one fight between the two. Check out Leopold Zola for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2015's Hail Hydra #1. Number 3. Anti-Cap. With a name like Anti-Cap, you know this guy is going to be pretty dark. Not a whole lot is known about Anti-Cap, but according to his files, we know that he was enlisted in the Navy after the Oklahoma City bombing. He almost became a SEAL, but didn't pass the psychological test, and as a US Marine, he killed one of the biggest drug dealers around. But that's about it. At some point during his time in the Navy, he agreed to undergo an experiment that would basically make him the Navy's version of Captain America through something called the AVX patch. It worked and gave him similar abilities to Captain America, but only worsened his mental state, leading him to murder an admiral that was overseeing the project. He went AWOL after that, and Captain America and the Falcon were tasked with finding him before he could cause any more damage. After a long search, Captain America found Anti-Cap, and the two battled it out for a while, with Steve coming out on top. Defeated both physically and mentally, Anti-Cap chose to take his own life into his own hands, and dropped in front of a moving subway train, ending his own life. Why not check this character out for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 2004's Captain America and the Falcon #1. Number 2. Colonel America, aka Zombie Cap. Now I know you're all expecting this one to pop up on this list at some point. Like most of the other heroes from Earth 2149, very little is known about Colonel America's life before the zombie plague, but it can be safely assumed that it is similar to his 616 counterpart, with the only difference being an obvious rank change and the fact that Colonel America served as the President of the United States for almost a full term. During a battle with Sentry, Colonel America was infected with the zombie virus, and he is actually the one responsible for turning Spider-Man after he launched himself into the air and biting him. With an insatiable hunger, Colonel and the rest of the Avengers go on a hunger-fueled rampage. Skip ahead a little bit and we see Rogers alongside other zombies gain cosmic powers after devouring the Silver Surfer, but even the cosmic powers he gained couldn't prevent his death because during a fight with the Red Skull, he just straight up gets his brain scooped out. Fast forward another 40 years and we find out that the Colonel's brain is still very much alive thanks to the zombie virus, and it ends up being transplanted into Black Panther's dead son T'Challa. However, this turned out to be a terrible idea because Colonel America turned into a battle-crazed zombie that couldn't think of anything other than fighting and killing. His final fate was never actually confirmed, but it can be assumed that he died in one of the later battles that ensued between the zombies and the humans. Now, the Zombieverse is probably my favorite Marvel universe out there, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it too, so check out Colonel America in his first appearance in 2007's Marvel Zombies vs. Army of Darkness #1, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Number 1. Steve Rogers, Earth 11,326. Still the leader of the Avengers even in this universe, this Steve Rogers is not the nice guy that we would expect, or at least he doesn't start out that way. With all of the powers and abilities of his 616 counterpart, Captain America of Earth 11,326 was recruited as a part of a team to hunt and kill all mutants. During a mission to the mutant stronghold Fortress X, he succumbed to a deep and primal bloodlust and just killed Mystique because he thought that she was a threat, only to find out she was actually protecting a group of mutant children from the dangers of the world. With her dying breath, she completely changes Cap's outlook on life by questioning if what he was doing was actually right and how he could have let himself go this far. Realizing his mistake, Cap called off the mission and took everything into his own hands, killing the Steel Corps in order to protect the mutant children from any more horrors. Alongside the other members of the Avengers, Cap fought to protect Fortress X but was killed by the Hulk. He redeemed himself in the eyes of the mutants enough to inspire them to continue the fight in his honor though. Now I put this Captain America at the top of this list today because it shows just how truly merciless a Captain America who has lost his values and humanity can be. Check him out for yourself in the Age of X storyline starting with 2011's Age of X Universe #1.
Number 10, 1602. The Matthew Murdock belonging to Neil Gaiman's 1602 alternate Earth of 311 is known as the Bard. He pretends to be a helpless blind singer when really he is a dangerous adventurer who takes on jobs in exchange for large sums of gold. This version of Matthew is from Ireland and got his powers as a young boy when he ventured into a dark cave and discovered a glowing green substance which he tasted to try to figure out what it was. Cause that's what you do when you notice weird glowing substances. The substance gave him a fever and robbed him of his sight, but granted him other enhanced superhuman senses. At one point he threatens to kill King James if he ever attempts to attack Spymaster Sir Nicholas Fury again. Number 9. Old Man Daredevil. In the Marvel 1602 comic, one of the alternate realities that we also get to see into is the one that Captain America came from when he was sent back in time to 1599 Earth 490. It was his being sent back that created Earth 311, the alternate reality that the 1602 comics belong to. On Earth 490, Captain America stood up against the older dictator and president of the United States, Purple Man, who at the time was not just the president but also considered president for life. Other heroes tried to do so as well, but many of them were hunted down and captured, including an elderly Spider-Man and an elderly Daredevil. Both were presumed killed by President Kilgrave, while Captain America was sent back in time because Purple Man didn't even want a trace left of Cap. He wanted to avoid Captain America being made into a martyr, and to have him completely forgotten instead. Number 8. Dare the Terminator. Slade Murdoch is from the Amalgam Universe. She is the combination of Matt Murdock, Daredevil from Marvel, and Slade Wilson, Deathstroke from DC. She was a lawyer who struck out as a vigilante when she felt the system failed to uphold justice. Both her father and her mentor Winterstick took part in her training, and she took up the mantle Dare. Later, she was captured by the crime lord and New Gotham mayor, The Big Question, who experimented on her. It was during this time that she was blinded but gained superhuman senses. The Big Question called her a Daredevil and gave her little devil-like horn implants to help her appearance match that nickname. Number 7. MCU Daredevil. The whole feel of the Netflix shows when it came to their depiction of heroes was way darker. In the Daredevil Netflix series, the show really tends to focus on the angle of Daredevil just being a normal dude. He's trained hard almost his entire life and he's a brilliant lawyer, but Matt Murdock is just a human trying to do his best to defend his own borough of New York. The only superhuman thing about him is his senses and how well he is able to see in his own way around him, despite being completely blind. In fact, his blindness is one of his strengths in the series, that and his insane willpower, which is shown through how many times Daredevil gets beaten down but always manages to get back up. Charlie Cox plays the role of Daredevil and Matt Murdock brilliantly in this darker, more gritty live-action reality. Number 6. Exiles. In the 2001 run of Exiles, we meet the Daredevil of Earth 181. We learn that this version of Matt Murdock for some reason works for Wilson Fisk as a hitman. After his adventures with the multiversal Weapon X team, Daredevil ends up being imprisoned in a crystal palace. After being freed though, he ends up back on his own Earth, where we get to see him gleefully return to working for the Kingpin, beating his target bloody in an alley. Wow, that's dark. Number 5. Undead Daredevil. This version of Daredevil comes to us from Earth 666. In this reality, everyone is undead. Here, Daredevil is part of the Undead Avengers, which is led by Brother Voodoo. He offers Captain Britain some blood of an innocent youth in the first few panels of his existence. Braddock, of course, politely refuses that offer. We don't know much about this version of Daredevil as he's only appeared in a few issues of 2010's Secret Avengers, but he looks and seems initially super dark. He himself actually seems to be some kind of demon or devil based on both his appearance and his behavior. Number 4. Daredevil 2099. There are actually two different versions of Daredevil 2099, one which shows up in 2099 AD Genesis. He is Eric Nelson and is believed to be related to Matthew's partner Foggy Nelson, but the other is related to someone far more sinister. In the Marvel Knights line Daredevil 2099 comic, Daredevil is actually Samuel Fisk, the grandson of Wilson Fisk, who wrestles with atoning with his family's criminal past while also being faced with inheriting that legacy as Kingpin. He uses the Daredevil persona to assuage his guilt over the source of the power that he wields as Kingpin. In this reality, Matt Murdock was also killed years ago by his nemesis Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk. Number 3. Kingpin. In the reality of Earth 65, which is also home to Spider-Gwen, aka Ghost Spider, Matt Murdock, instead of becoming Daredevil, ends up as Wilson Fisk's right-hand man and eventually takes over his role as Kingpin when his boss gets arrested. In this reality, Stick is killed by the Hand and they end up taking in a young Matt Murdock to train in their ways, turning him into a deadly assassin. He still gets a law degree when he returns to the States, but instead of taking up arms against the criminal underworld, he ends up joining it, working for Fisk, climbing the ranks until he becomes his Kingpin's chief advisor. Matt Murdock in this reality is an enemy to Felicia Hardy and Ghost Spider. Number 2. Keeper Murdoch. This version of Matthew Murdoch is from Age of Apocalypse. Apocalypse took over Earth when Matt was just a child. He was put to work on Apocalypse Island and during his time there saved another human from a falling barrel of toxic waste. This toxic waste ended up granting him the superhuman senses we know him for, but Matt only suspected that the accident was responsible for blinding him, because this all happened around the time that he joined up to be part of the Upstart program, which gave him cybernetic enhancements. Ergo, he thought his abilities were granted to him by his enhancements, and by Mikhail Rasputin, one of Apocalypse's horsemen. As such, Murdoch became Rasputin's loyal and obedient servant. After he experienced a fraction of the world's suffering through making physical contact with the mutant empath, Murdoch would learn that his powers did not come from Rasputin, and that in fact, he had been manipulated for years into committing what were evil atrocities. Yeesh. Number 1. Daredevil. Daredevil only appeared briefly in a couple of issues. He is mentioned in Exciting X-Patrol and comes to us from the Amalgam universe. Daredevil is known as the Man Without Life and appears to be a combination of Marvel's Daredevil, Matthew Murdoch, and DC's Deadman, Boston Brand. Both their names are good old comic book alliteration. We don't know much about Daredevil, but can safely assume he'd have the combined powers of both characters. He is also known as the Man Without Life.
Number 10. Dark Claw. One of the coolest looking hero matchups to come out of the Amalgam universe in my opinion. The hero known as Dark Claw is a combination of Batman and Wolverine named Logan Wayne. Like our familiar Batman, Wayne witnessed his parents' murder at a young age and then was sent off to live with his uncle in Alberta. However, that did not last very long because his uncle was murdered as well, and Wayne was sent to live in a home run by nuns. Once old enough, he enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force alongside a man named Creed H. Quinn, and the two of them were submitted to the Weapon X program, aka the Canadian Super Soldier program. It was there that the Wolverine half of this character came to be, as it was here he learned of his metamutant powers and had his bones fused with adamantium. Quinn, however, was not so lucky because through the course of the experiments he grew more and more insane and would eventually become the Hyena, a combination of Sabretooth and the Joker and Dark Claw's greatest enemy. Equipped with the powers of Wolverine and the vast knowledge of Batman, Dark Claw is a truly awesome character, so check him out for yourself in his first appearance in 1996's Marvel vs. DC number 3. Number 9. Thomas Wayne. Turns out crime fighting is a genetic thing when it comes to the Wayne family. In the Flashpoint timeline, Bruce is actually the one who's murdered by the robber Joe Chill instead of his parents Thomas and Martha. Now as a result, for reasons similar to his son, Thomas Wayne took up a personal vendetta against crime that led him to taking up the mantle of Batman. But unlike his son, he is much more ruthless in his actions, as he is happy to kill any criminal that gets in his way. Equipped with the same genius intellect and hand-to-hand combat skills you would expect from any Batman, this version of the Caped Crusader has also been seen with multiple firearms, and also an Amazonian sword. Thomas secretly funds his war on crime through his business, Wayne Casinos, and thanks to this he's able to fight some of the most notorious villains Gotham's ever seen. One being his own wife, Martha Wayne, the Joker of this timeline. So if you're not familiar with the Flashpoint timeline, I highly recommend you take a look at some of the storylines it follows. So check out this grittier version of Batman for yourself in his first appearance in Flashpoint Volume 2, number 1, so you can fully understand why he considers himself to be a man with too much blood on his hands to be considered good. Number 8. Grim Knight. This version of Batman is from the Dark Multiverse and serves under the Batman Who Laughs as basically a gun for hire, acting as his second in command. In his timeline, Bruce's origin story is pretty much the same as his primary counterpart, however, he kills Joe Chill right after the murder of his parents when Chill drops his gun and gives him the opening. For the next several years, Bruce traveled the world honing his skills as an assassin and eventually returns to Gotham City to strike fear into the criminals' hearts as this universe's Batman. He has done some truly terrible things, such as making Jim Gordon watch as he made 2 highly explosive blimps crash into both Arkham Asylum and Blackgate Penitentiary, or when he tortured Mayor Harvey Dent with radiation until he was allowed to put up surveillance cameras all over Gotham. Sure, all that made Gotham a much safer place, but there was definitely a better method to it. With a full arsenal of weapons hid around the city of Gotham and on his person, the Grim Knight is truly merciless and not someone you want to mess with. First appearing in 2019's The Batman Who Laughs Volume 2, number 1, Grim Knight truly shows how dark a Batman who kills can be. Number 7. Damian Wayne. Now let's jump to a possible future here for a second and take a look at a version of Damian Wayne who took up the mantle of Batman in Bethlehem. In this possible future, Bruce Wayne retired as Batman and Dick Grayson took up the mantle. However, he was killed by some explosive Jokerfish and Damian stepped up to the plate as Batman. Unlike his father and Dick Grayson, Damian's Batman in this future is more willing to injure and kill opponents if he judges it necessary to do so, and this is pretty easy for him to do because he has always been pretty violent and definitely has the know-how to take down anyone and anything. Now, it's heavily implied that in this possible future, Damian made a literal deal with the devil, exchanging his soul for immortality and the healing abilities he felt he needed to protect Gotham. And he felt this had to be done because he couldn't measure up to his predecessors, being his father and Dick Grayson. Using the city of Gotham as a weapon itself by setting traps throughout it, we've seen this Batman go up against the likes of Two-Face in order to save a young Terry McGinnis, who he eventually takes under his Batwing, training him to become the next Batman. Why not check out this possible future for yourself in 2007's Batman number 666. Number 6. Batman 1 Million. In the far-off 853rd century, criminals and crime fighters are still very prevalent, and the most dangerous criminals are actually imprisoned on the planet Pluto and overseen by this new Batman. Their secret identity is not known, but we do know that he was one of the children that Zaron forced to watch their parents murder, and from that day on, he swore to never let such a tragedy happen again. They chose the symbol of the bat because he thought it stood for something more than just fear, stating it stood for justice and as an ideal. He studied for years on end, honing his fighting skills and knowledge in as many physical and mental techniques as possible, and all of that eventually paid off because he was eventually offered a position on the new incarnation of the Justice League alongside Superman and Flash 1 Million. After years of working together, they all went back in time to invite the Justice League of the 20th century to see the rebirth of the first Superman, Superman Prime. Much to their surprise, their companion Starman betrayed them and unleashed a plague onto Earth, and with the real Justice League being unable to stop them, Justice Legion Alpha stepped in to help them. Batman 1 Million worked with the 20th century Batman to find a way to stop Starman's plan, along with Dick Grayson and Tim Drake, using the technology of the Batcave, and together, they were able to stop his plan, ending with Starman returning to the light once more to stop what he had done. Give this storyline a read for yourself, starting with 1998's JLA number 23. Number 5. Owlman. Thomas Wayne Jr. from the Antimatter universe is the son of Thomas and Martha and older brother to Bruce. After his family's murder, he decided to take up the mantle of Owlman. However, unlike Batman, Thomas wanted to conquer the villains he went up with rather than just fight them. Thanks to his father's wealth that he was left as inheritance, Thomas underwent years of training and general enhancement so he could enact his plans of conquering Gotham's crime world. Alongside the other members of the Crime Syndicate, a group who is basically the evil version of the Justice League, they managed to establish and maintain control over a large portion of their Earth, even though they were up against other powerful organizations such as the Young Offenders and the Crime Lodge. Eventually, the Crime Syndicate began kidnapping people from the 52 multiverse matter-based worlds, and were visited by our Justice League to retrieve the people from the Justice League Earth. Thomas, along with Superwoman and Ultraman, were banished to a prison subdimension while Johnny Quick and the current Power Ring were captured. Highly recommend you check out the storyline for yourself, so check out Owlman in his first appearance in 2000's JLA Earth 2. Number 4. Azrael. John Paul Valley, the genetically augmented assassin / vigilante for the group known as the Order of St. Dumas. Now, I said genetically augmented because Valley was a test tube baby and his genetic structure was altered by scientists with an animal DNA which allows him to do the insane feats a normal human could only dream of. Originally an ally and even apprentice of Batman, Azrael was the one to adopt the Batman moniker following the Dark Knight's crippling defeat at the hands of Bane. However, he went insane for a short while during his run as the Caped Crusader and decided to augment the Batsuit so it was capable of causing some serious damage. It was very apparent early on that Azrael's Batman was of a very different breed because he was much more ruthless, okay with killing, and pretty much just wanted to punish the criminals rather than save any lives. Although he was doing a great job of cleaning Gotham City of its criminals, Bruce felt his methods were much too violent and irresponsible and personally removed him from the mantle after his full recovery, causing Valley to return to his identity as Azrael. Valley was presumably killed in a battle against his two greatest foes, Beast and Scratch, as he was shot through his armor by a multitude of Teflon bullets, and only his costume was recovered. 5 years later, another Azrael was created by the Order in ex-police officer Michael Lane. Check out John Paul Valley as both Azrael and Batman, starting with 1992's Batman Sword of Azrael, number 1. Number 3. Murder Machine. With an identical upbringing as the Batman we all know and love, Earth-44's Bruce Wayne ended up with one more tragic death in his life, the murder of his butler, Alfred. Blaming himself for Alfred's death, Bruce enlisted the help of Cyborg to create the Alfred Protocol, a powerful AI and hologram with the intent of keeping Bruce safe at all times. Within one day, the Alfred Protocol had executed all of the criminals in Arkham Asylum as he deemed them a threat to Bruce. Eventually, Bruce started to doubt his ability to keep himself safe and relied very heavily on the AI Albert, having him remove his ability to feel fear and sadness and replace his body with a mechanical one that would never ever fail him. This was the birth of the Murder Machine and thus began the Earth's demise. Like the other members of the Dark Knights, Murder Machine represents one of Batman's many fears and aspects of his life. This one in particular represents his fear of not being as self-sufficient as he thinks, his father-son relationship with Alfred, and the regret of cutting off other people. Check them out in their first appearance in 2017's Dark Days, the casting, number 1. Number 2, the Batman Who Laughs. Obviously, this twisted Batman had to make an appearance on this list today. However, he is not at number 1 because there are definitely some darker Batman out there. Hailing from the dark multiverse, we have Earth -22's Bruce Wayne, also known as the Batman Who Laughs. After an all-out assault from Joker against Gotham, Bruce completely loses it and snaps the Joker's neck, which causes a mysterious gas to leak from the Joker's mouth into Bruce's body. This led to the mad descent of Bruce's sanity and his transformation into the Joker-Batman hybrid known as the Batman Who Laughs. With the abilities of the Joker and Batman combined, alongside the Jokerized Robins known as Groblins or Dark Robins, the Batman Who Laughs assembled the darkest and most twisted versions of Batman across the Dark Multiverse and created the Dark Knights in order to wreak havoc on the world. In the events of Dark Knight Death Metal, he is seemingly killed by Wonder Woman's new Chainsaw of Truth, but I highly doubt this is the last we will ever see of him. So check him out for yourself in his first appearance in Dark Days, the casting, number 1. And finally at number 1 we have Batman Earth 43. Now, not a whole lot is known about this Batman's life prior to his introduction, but it can be assumed that it was similar to the Batman origin we're all familiar with. You know, parents' death leads to training, leads to becoming Batman and fighting the likes of the Joker, the Riddler, etc. After discovering that the most famous vampire Dracula is still alive and operating in Gotham City, Bruce realizes that his recent dreams were the result of him being visited by Tanya, another vampire who was once under Dracula's control. Tanya had actually been biting Bruce but hadn't been taking any of his blood. She was instead infusing him with vampiric powers without destroying his humanity. Thanks to these new powers, Batman now possessed some incredibly enhanced senses, super strength, and more alongside his immense knowledge of hand-to-hand combat. With enough power to now kill Dracula, Batman confronts and kills him by impaling the vampire on a tree. However, this win came at a serious cost because Dracula was able to completely drain Batman of all his blood, effectively completing his transformation into a vampire. Fast forward a little bit and we see our vampiric Batman put into a coma thanks to a stake to the heart after his bloodlust and rage causes him to drain the Joker of all his blood. Alfred eventually awoke his master later on because Gotham City was overrun with criminals. However, this was a pretty bad idea because all he did was hunt down his enemies, both new and old, so he could just drain them of all their blood and kill them. He is eventually killed after he walks into the sunlight, hoping he can finally pay for what he did and have some peace, but he is revived once more later on in the search for Ray Palmer, Red Rain. Making his first appearance in 1992's Batman and Dracula Red Rain, check out the storyline for yourself and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I personally love it. Number 10, The Captain. From Earth 616, we meet a not-so-bright man with a fairly dark past, and when I say not bright, I truly mean it because this guy thinks if you hit a leprechaun in the head, it will turn into gold coins. Now, although we don't know his real name, we know that growing up his mother was an alcoholic, and that is what led him down the path of bar hopping and bar fights. One night while on a long bender, two aliens cross paths with him, and for some reason they think he is worthy of some insane power, and bestow upon him the Messianic Sita Complex, which is the heart star of the space between galaxies. With his newfound powers and goal of turning Brooklyn into a better place, he is recruited by the Next Wave, the anti-terrorist superhero team. He apparently chose the name The Captain because all the other good names are taken, which is very fitting for his character. Sometime later, the Captain leaves Next Wave to live a quieter life, as it turns out he wasn't a huge fan of being a superhero, but when Nova crashes into Earth, he takes the mantle of the Captain once again to defeat the Mole Monster. Thanks to the Heart Star he obtained from those aliens, the Captain is seen with what is described as a generic set of special superhero abilities such as super strength, speed, stamina, durability, and flight. Now, since he doesn't possess many powers you normally associate with Captain Marvel, I put him at the bottom of the list, but don't worry, we have got some great characters coming up. Check out the Captain for yourself in his first appearance in 2006's Next Wave number 1. Number 9, Anna Marie. Anna Marie from Earth 9289 is a bit of an interesting character, and honestly I love it. When Rogue touched Miss Marvel to absorb her powers, Carol Danvers got in the way by grabbing onto her arm. Carol's Kree DNA ended up glitching Rogue's powers, and thanks to the prolonged contact, they both absorbed the memories, personality, and abilities of the other. With all the powers of Carol Danvers such as super strength, flight, energy manipulation, and so much more, this made for one frightening mutant Kree hybrid. After getting a serious power boost during their fight in space with Brood, Anna becomes the hero known as Binary in this world. This Rogue and Carol Danvers combination were briefly visited by Carol's counterpart from the Prime Marvel Universe using the power of the Reality Stone, since the gem linked her to the wielders of the gem in other realities, with the wielder being Anna Marie in this case for this universe. So check out this hybrid mutant Kree for yourself in her first appearance in 2018's Infinity Countdown Captain Marvel number 1. Number 8, Marvin Elwood. Hailing from the Marvel mangaverse, we have Marvin Elwood, the son of Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel from Earth 2301. On his 13th birthday, Marvin was finally old enough to inherit his father's negabands. However, that was no easy task because they were actually hidden in a volcano of all places, and when he finally got them, this completed his transformation into the newest Captain Marvel. When wearing the negabands, Martin is given super strength and speed, interstellar flight, invulnerability, and so much more. Carrying on from where his father left off, Marvin's first mission was to take down Galactus, and with the help of the Fantastic Four and the Inhumans, who he meets on the way, Marvin is able to take down all the villains that stand in his way, and he eventually succeeds in destroying Galactus' core and saves his world from destruction. However, sometime later, it's not really stated how long it's been. The Hand ends up resurfacing in his world and starts taking out the heroes of Earth 2301, and Marvin is unfortunately one of them. Making his first appearance in 2002's Marvel Mangaverse #1. Check out his story for yourself and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Number 7. Number 96. Before the Skrulls sent their other, more well-known spies, they created 97 Marvel sleeper agents, all considered to be failures except for, of course, number 97. Like the other 95 before her, number 96 was considered defective due to her several behavioral and genetic defects that had been accidentally given to her. Even though she is defective, number 96 still possesses these Skrull shape-shifting powers that allow her to transform into basically anything and take on their powers thanks to their unstable molecular structure. After the Skrull invasion on Earth, Mystique accidentally found the warehouse where all the defects were being stored and decided to bring 96 out of her coma so she could manipulate her into killing countless people. Mystique did this by disguising herself as Carol Danvers, which allowed the Marvel clone number 96 to immediately trust her. After a while, 96 came to the realization that she was being manipulated, and this made her go a little bit crazy, and she beat Mystique into a coma. Due to these unstable emotions, she began to overload with radioactive energy, which caused her to detonate like a huge atomic bomb. But thankfully, the real Carol Danvers was able to swoop in and absorb the blast, so there wasn't too much damage done. Check out number 96 for yourself in her first appearance in 2010's Miss Marvel Volume 2, number 48. Number 6. Monica Rambeau. From our familiar Earth 616, we have Monica Rambeau, the current Spectrum. However, before her time as the new hero, she was known as Captain Marvel. She was once a lieutenant in the New Orleans Harbor Patrol. However, fate came upon her one day when she gained superpowers after being bombarded by extra-dimensional energy that was produced by an energy disruptor weapon created by a criminal scientist. Now classified as an alpha-level threat, she uses her newfound energy form to create energy blast, alter her appearance, fly, and so much more. Given the name Captain Marvel by the media, she befriended many superpowered folks early on and actually served as an Avenger for a period of time, becoming its leader at one point. However, she was forced to step down from the group after many injuries. Out of respect for Genus Bell, who we will talk about a little bit later, who is the son of the original Captain Marvel, she changed her name to Photon so that he could take up the mantle and carry on his father's legacy. Fast forward a little bit past her time with the Mighty Avengers, we see Monica, now known as Spectrum, join the newly formed Ultimates. However, after the second superhuman civil war, the team was disbanded by the government because of the way they dealt with conflict. They did later reassemble though to investigate Eternity at the request of Galactus, and eventually the team was combined into Alpha Flight, and they're working to this day to keep people safe. If you want to know more about Monica's origin story, check her out in her first appearance in 1982's Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16. Number 5. Captain Mar-Vell. Hailing from Earth 1610, or better known as the Ultimate Marvel Universe, we have Jihinnaris Halasan Mar-Vell, the Ultimate Captain Marvel. As a member of the Kree race, he underwent massive nanosurgery to appear human, going undercover as the physicist Dr. Philip Lawson to investigate the human race. Growing fond of humans, Vell joined S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ACES program to speed up humanity's progress to the stars. Thanks to his cyber surgery, Vell is able to change between his original form and human forms, and he can actually be changed out of this against his will into his original form if the cybernetics are tampered with in some way, but this issue can be resolved by itself with time, or he can resolve it. It just depends on how bad it is. While in his battlesuit, like the other Captain Marvels, Vell is capable of flight and can create energy shields when needed. Now, like many of the alternate Captain Marvels, he doesn't stick around for too long, as during the launch of a space mission in Cape Canaveral, Mar-Vell received information that part of the Galactus swarm had arrived on Earth. He fought the swarm in Bermuda and found himself allied with the Silver Surfer and Nova. When Galactus targeted the Kree homeworld Hala, Captain Mar-Vell fought the creature until he was grievously injured by the swarm. He died of his injuries on Hala and has not been revived or seen since. Check him out in his first appearance in 2005's Ultimate Secret #1, and let me know what you think of the character in the comments below. Number 4. Novar, or Marvel Boy. A member of the Kree race in an alternate reality, Novar is the son of Captain Glory and Star Splendor. His DNA is actually interesting and adds a weird layer to his character because it was altered with cockroach genes to include some insect properties like wall crawling and super hearing thanks to a membrane that covers his skin. With the powers you would expect from the Kree race such as super strength, speed, agility, and durability, Thor was also injected with nanobots, allowing him to extend his fingernails and create bombs out of them. As a member of the 18th Kree Diplomatic Gestalt and the Young Avengers, we have seen Var go up against some terrifying villains across the galaxy, such as some major Skrull impersonators and Kang the Conqueror. In his most recent appearance, the Guardians of the Galaxy recruited Marvel Boy in order to stop the mad gods known as the Olympians. Together they decided their best hope was to use his pocket battlefield to destroy Olympus' engine. Nova and Phyla-Vell would distract Zeus while Moondragon would hide their presence to accomplish this. However, Artemis and Hermes discovered them, derailing their plans. When Hermes attacked Moondragon, Marvel Boy incapacitated distracted God, and now we're kind of left waiting to see what happens next. But in the meantime, why not familiarize yourself with Marvel Boy, starting with his first appearance in 2000's Marvel Boy Volume 2, Number 1. Number 3, Carol Danvers. Now hopefully we all know who this version of Captain Marvel is, as she has been around for a while now and has played a big role in a decent amount of storylines for Marvel. Born to Marie and Joe Danvers, Carol is a half Kree, half human, all-powerful woman who you do not want to mess with. As Captain Marvel, she possesses an incredible amount of powers, including but not limited to flight, super strength, energy manipulation, and even has some regenerative powers. Before becoming Captain Marvel, she was a part of the Air Force and intended to become a pilot. However, after she obtained her powers from Mar-Vell after the Psyche Magnetron fuses her DNA to his, awakening her latent Kree powers, she pretty much becomes a hero full-time, and well, the rest is history. As a member of the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Alpha Flight, and more, this Captain Marvel is a serious badass, and I would not recommend getting on her bad side. Now, I'm sure we all know where to find Carol Danvers, but just in case, check her out in her first appearance in 1968 Marvel Superheroes number 13, or if you'd rather see her on the big screen, check out Brie Larson in her portrayal of the character in the Captain Marvel movie. Another one that I haven't seen yet. Number 2, Phyla-Vell. The daughter of Mar-Vell and brother to Genus-Vell, Phyla-Vell is an insanely powerful being. Having previously destroyed and recreated the universe, she was the second artificially created offspring of Captain Mar-Vell, was created by her mother Elysius in the new universe because her first attempt, Genus-Vell, had been so successful. Thanks to her Kree/eternal hybrid physiology, she possesses superhuman levels of strength, speed, and endurance, and on top of that, she has vast cosmic awareness and is able to manipulate the quantum zone force to do basically whatever she wants. Throughout her run in the Marvel Universe, she has been seen fighting in conflict with some ridiculously powerful beings such as Annihilus, and even her own brother Genus-Vell when he went insane and she tried to take over the mantle of Captain Marvel. Later on, we see her join Star-Lord's new Guardians of the Galaxy alongside Marvel Boy, Moondragon, and Rocket Raccoon, where she eventually agrees to become the new Avatar of Oblivion. Now known as Martyr, she was much more aggressive than ever before, and unfortunately, that led to a bunch of events that made up her death. In her final moments, she heads towards the cocoon expecting Magus to be inside. However, before her very eyes, a resurrected Thanos emerges from it, killing her and sending her off to hell. Now, if you're interested in this character, check her out in her first appearance in 2004's Captain Marvel Volume 5, number 16. And finally, number 1, we have Genus-Vell. After falling out with Captain America, Rick Jones found himself mentally drawn to a pair of extraterrestrial golden bracelets known as the Negabands. With those bands, his atoms joined together with that of the original Captain Mar-Vell, and they lived together in a shared existence. Captain Mar-Vell unfortunately perished from incurable systematic cancer, and as Rick slowly began to move on with his life, eventually getting married, Mar-Vell's love, Elysius, felt more alone than ever. Using titanium science, Elysius sampled some of Mar-Vell's genetic structure to conceive a child, Genus. To protect him from Captain Marvel's enemies, Genus was artificially aged to maturity and taken to an isolated world where he could be safe from any harm. Now, upon discovering his true lineage, Genus donned the Negabands worn by his father and was determined to carry on his father's heroic traditions. With all the powers of his father before him, coupled with his vast cosmic awareness and ability to interact with his alternate selves, Genus is arguably the most powerful Captain Marvel to date. During his time with the Thunderbolts, Genus's powers seemed to rage out of control to the point where his Negabands were actually absorbed into his body, and he was continuously drawing more and more energy into himself, and he got to the point where he was so powerful that Zane used the Moonstones to kill Genus by sending his body parts into separate parts of the Dark Force dimension so that they could never be rejoined. Now, obviously I did have to skip over a lot of cool stuff when it came to this character, so why not check him out for yourself in his first appearance in 1993's Silver Surfer Annual number 6.
Number 10, Old King Phoenix Thor. So some people say that this would probably be the most powerful version of Thor. And oh boy, it's probably true. Imagine Thor with his own powers, but also the power of the Phoenix Force. That's when you get Old King Phoenix Thor, who just also looks really, really cool. This Thor is a lot older and wiser, but ends up getting defeated by Wolverine, who was harnessing the power of the Phoenix Force. But then Wolverine ends up getting killed by Doctor Doom, and it is given to Thor. And I mean, the rest is history. Number 9, Rogue Thor. Okay, so this version of Thor comes from Marvel's What If series. Something a lot of fans will become a lot more familiar with because they're making a Disney Plus series about it, with MCU characters, which will actually be really cool. So, this one tells the story about what if Rogue, the X-Men, had the powers of Thor. In the story, Rogue ends up killing Thor by absorbing his powers and then kind of goes evil. I mean, she goes on a killing spree, killing a lot of people. It's not all bad though. She doesn't stay evil forever. I mean, the spirit of Thor eventually convinces her to use her powers for good, and she does. But come on, she went crazy, and it happened, but just not in the main continuity, of course, because that would just be really, really dark. Number 8, Frost Giant Thor. Okay, so Frost Giant Thor comes from Marvel's What If series, and during it, it presents the idea of what would have happened if Odin got killed by Laufey and raised Thor himself. Loki and Thor still are not really close in this version, but Loki's kind of the good guy. He wants to leave and go to Earth, but Thor doesn't want that and tries to stop him, and he accidentally ends up killing his mother, Frigga. Thor is devastated by what he's done and ends up letting Loki go, and Loki lives a nice life on Earth. I mean, it's pretty dark for Thor, but at least Loki got a happy ending this time. Number 7, Hellbound Thor. Hellbound Thor isn't from Marvel's main Earth. He comes from Earth 5113, or also known as the Dormammu-verse, which is named after, yes, Dormammu from Doctor Strange. In this universe, Dormammu is the ruler and has turned Thor, plus a lot of other famous Marvel heroes, into his minions, who will do anything for him. They all have new looks, and this version of Thor is very, very different. He's like really straight up scary. Yeah, he wasn't a big part of this story, so there's not a lot of information about him. But look-wise, he has his classic suit, but with a demon face, but he has all of his normal powers. Number 6, Thorion. Sometimes Marvel and DC cross over. It happens, and one time they did, some of their heroes merged together. This was the case with Thor and Orion, to form Thorion. He was super powerful, and get this, he is the son of Thanos. That's Thanos and Darkseid merged together. Like, that's so cool, and it's probably the scariest villain combo you could ever have. But this isn't technically canon, it's in its own universe, but it was pretty cool to see. It's always a treat whenever Marvel and DC decide to work together. Hopefully we see more of it in the future. Number 5, Revenger Thor. Yeah, it's called the Revengers because I'm getting revenge and you're getting revenge. Do you want revenge? Okay, so that quote was from Thor Ragnarok, but that version of the Revengers doesn't have any connections to Revenger Thor. But I just wanted to put that quote in there because, yeah, it was fun. Alrighty, so Revenger Thor comes from an alternate universe, Earth 10011, also known as the Cancerverse. In that universe, Thor is part of a team called the Revengers. And as you guessed, they are evil. They are basically the evil counterparts of the Avengers, which is kind of cool. They end up getting defeated by Thanos, which is also pretty crazy since they usually end up defeating him. But in this version, or this universe, Thanos is the hero, and he saves the day. Number 4, Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill, a character that is very popular with fans and long overdue for a live-action appearance. Beta Ray Bill is a character that is very popular with fans and long overdue for a live-action appearance. If you're not familiar, Beta Ray Bill is an alien who was able to pick up Thor's hammer. No one was expecting it to happen, but it happened. He didn't keep it, obviously, but he did end up getting his own cool hammer. The whole thing started when Nick Fury sent Thor up to investigate a spaceship, and he ran into Beta Ray Bill, and the two of them were like, hey, fight. But during that fight, he picked up Thor's hammer. Now, he was teased in Thor Ragnarok, so maybe that means that the MCU is slowly leading up to an appearance? I mean, only time will tell, guys. Number 3, Zombie Thor. Need I say more? No. Number 2. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Zombie Thor comes from the Marvel Zombie series, which was written by Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman. It takes place on Earth 2149, and on that Earth, a zombie virus ends up infecting almost all the heroes and villains of the Marvel Universe. Thor is one of those heroes. So, he looked very cool and terrifying at the same time. But, one of the most interesting things about this version is that since he was technically dead, he was no longer worthy of Mjolnir. So, Zombie Thor didn't have it. He ended up getting his own hammer later on, but he didn't have Mjolnir, and that was something that I thought was very, very interesting. Number 2, Venom Thor. Yep, this one is real, like no joke. Venom Thor. Man, just the name is terrifying, because you know Venom Thor is a deadly combo. But, like Rogue Thor and all the other ones, this one happens during one of Marvel's What If stories. What if the alien costume had been possessed Spider-Man. In the story, Venom takes over Spider-Man, but then continues to take him over, and then Hulk. But of course, he doesn't stop there. He's like, maybe I should take over some more heroes. And he decides to take over Thor. Venom takes over Thor and gets all of his powers. I mean, imagine if this happened in the main continuity. Venom would be virtually unstoppable because he retains all of the powers he takes. So he would have the powers of Spider-Man, Hulk, and Thor. Who would be able to stop him? No one. He would just rule the earth forever. Number 1, Unworthy Thor. This is one of the coolest versions of Thor, like ever. The reason he is so different is because this is Thor when he is unworthy of Mjolnir. He has short hair, a massive battle axe, ripped clothes, and one arm. His other arm was chopped off by Malekith and replaced with Black Uru. This look was part of the inspiration for Thor's look in the film Thor Ragnarok, which was freaking amazing. This story really breaks Thor down and shows who he is without the hammer.